was a long tour season. Now the FedEx Cup Playoffs are upon us. This week, the FedEx St. Jude Championship at TPC Southwind in Memphis marks the beginning of the playoffs. The top 70 golfers in the rankings are eligible. Of note, Rory McIlroy did opt out of this. We'll talk about that in just a second. After 4 rounds this weekend, top 50 will make it to the BMW Championship next weekend. The golfers are familiar with the course. It has been a part of the playoffs the past couple of years, but you never know what's going to happen once play begins. We have a full breakdown for you. For more on that, let's welcome in our golf guru, Michael Breed here. So TPC Southwind, get us ready for the course. What do we need to know? Because as you were telling me in a commercial break, it sounds a little terrifying.
You know what? It's only terrifying because there's water on 11 of the 18 holes. On the back 9, by the way, 3 of those tee shots have water on them, including the one that you just showed, the 18th hole, water down the left-hand side. You got to be careful there. This is a golf course, by the way, that last year had the 3rd most number of golf balls into the water of any other tournament for the entire season. And let's not forget that there were only 70 players playing in that event last year. So it's one of those that you got to really have control over your golf ball, particularly when it comes to hitting your approach shots. The golf course is about 72.88 in its distance as a par 70, which isn't necessarily long or short, but what makes it challenging, not just the water, the greens are only about 4,500 square feet on average, which is the 3rd smallest on the PGA Tour. So you have to be precise in getting the ball off the tee into the fairway, and then what's really going to be a key to the success here is the approach game with the iron play. In fact, 4 of the last 5 winners of this championship have all been in the top 5 in strokes gained approach. You have to have control over this iron if you're going to have success, and you know, I'd say the winning score is probably going to be in the middle teens. Maybe it'll approach 16, 17, possibly 18 under par. But it's not a golf course you're going to go out there and you're going to shoot 61 on. You got to be really careful. And if you don't find the fairway, I actually talked with Collin Morikawa earlier today about what his thoughts are. Got to find the fairways in order to be able to control that distance with the irons. And so that's going to be of great concern for the players this week.
Okay, so a ton of control, especially on approach. Avoid the water. Don't bust out the swing trunks. Give us your Breed breakdown. Are you looking at a specific hole today? What are you giving us?
No, it's more of a shot shape, and I think a lot of the players on the PGA Tour have really kind of committed to a fade shot, right? And what they'll do is they'll take a hole like what we've got here. The flag is sort of in the back portion of the green, and there's water on the right-hand side. There's a ton of room on the left-hand side, particularly over the bunker. What these players will do is they're just going to aim this up the sort of the left side, left of the flag, maybe 20, 30 feet left of the flag, and then just hit a cut shot. That'll be a standard shot that you'll see these players play. Rory McIlroy isn't necessarily one of those who commits to that cut shot, but Scotty Scheffler, Collin Morikawa, and others, they really buy into the cut. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, you got to make sure you got the right aim, and then the second is you got to make sure that you keep that club face a little bit open as you go through this shot, and then you just got to trust it. And when you do that, what you're going to get is you're going to get a shot that kind of tracks up the middle of the green, fades over to the right-hand side. And even though that water's over there on the right, not something that's bothering me because I know I'm going to have allowed, just in case I hit a little bit of a push, which that one was a little bit of a push, I still am going to get away with it because I've aimed far enough left to allow that mistake. So in order to be successful here, you've got to find the greens. You've got to be good with the iron play. And the way you do that is commit to that single shot shape, which nowadays it's a left to right or a fade shot for these players.
Michael, down here in South Florida, of course, we're worried about the alligators in the water. I don't think they have them in Memphis. I'm going to let you join Greg Ducharme here because we got so much to talk about when it comes to the storylines. Okay, so this weekend we have the St. Jude Championship at TPC Southwind in Memphis. Top 70 golfers. The top 50 will make it to the BMW Championship at Caves Valley in Maryland. The culmination, top 30 will head to Atlanta for the Tour Championship at East Lake. So let's welcome back in Michael Breed, Greg Ducharme here. Let's talk about some of the storylines, some of the players. Of course, we have to start with Scotty Scheffler, who is now I think he's like a demigod in the world of golf because he's the reigning tour champ. He's #1 player in the world. He's coming off 2 major wins this season. There's nothing this guy cannot do unless he's making ravioli with a wine glass. I don't think, Greg, he's ever going to do that again. What are you thinking about Scotty Scheffler heading into the weekend?
Well, you heard what Michael said about the most important thing on this golf course with small greens and water hazards and the preference for a fade shot. That's Scottie Scheffler, Scottie Scheffler, Scottie Scheffler. This is the best iron player on the PGA Tour for the last 3 seasons. And maybe even for 4 seasons. He is fantastic in that area, especially when you look at his proximity to the hole where he's 5th. Greens of regulation where he's 12th, Michael. But what we've learned about Scottie Scheffler is what you just described about this golf course fits his game perfectly here.
Well, he finished 4th last year, no question about it. And look, we know he had a great season last season, but this year is very much the same. In fact, if you go to statistics, and we talked to Randy Smith about it on the radio show, and he said he actually believes that this year's a better year for Scottie Scheffler than last year, which was still one of the best that we've seen on the PGA Tour. The guy has become a world-class putter. He's in the top 25 in strokes gained putting. His short game is phenomenal. The iron play is great, and he drives the ball beautifully. And for a guy that moves the ball left to right, you kind of do some pretty simple mathematics here, and you would say this guy's a favorite every single week, Greg. But here, he's even more of a favorite, isn't he?
But yes, and I think he's finally figured something out. His record here, he's played here a number of times through his career. Last year was his first top 5 in this event. It was also his first top 10 in this event. I believe a large portion of that came from struggles on the greens. And Michael, what we've seen so far out of Scottie this year is his best putting season in his entire career. I think that'll go a long way for him on the Bermuda greens this week.
So he's coming off a win at the Open. And let's talk about Rory, because he's not going to be at this event. And for golf fans, it's frustrating. It was so much fun watching him at that event. We would love to see him here. But Michael, explain to people why it doesn't really make much of a difference when it comes to the standings that Rory isn't playing this weekend.
Yeah, and Amanda, I don't necessarily know that this is about Rory McIlroy as much as it's about what this playoff system has done. You look at this, and as we carry these FedEx Cup points forwards in the playoffs, what you see is, Greg, that with Scottie and also too with Rory, they have such a lead that they don't have to play in this. In fact, it wouldn't have surprised me if Scottie Scheffler and Rory kind of stepped aside. Scottie's at over 4,000 points, and Rory's at 34-44, and you start to think about this, like, these guys are going to be fine through probably the Tour Championship in Atlanta. Like, they could have taken these first 2 weeks off. I think that the PGA Tour has to really think about what they're going to do going forward in order to ensure that this doesn't happen again.
Well, there has to be some sort of reason for the players to play these first 2 playoff events. Now, I love the change that they made with the Tour Championship format to being just the top 30 play and the winner wins. I think having a straightforward championship like that makes the most sense. But at the same time, if you go into the playoffs with a huge lead, there's no reason for you to play because you're not going to fall 31 spots in the playoffs. So there are a couple things you could do, Michael. I mean, but I think there has to be some sort of adjustment in these first 2 playoff events to get players to play.
And I think that's one of the things that's taken place when they went away from the staggered start, giving the players shots as they go into the Tour Championship. That would kind of incentivize these players to play in these first couple of playoffs. When they go away from that, now all of a sudden, it changes things quite a bit, and Rory's decided, you know what, I'm going to be prepared for the Tour Championship by taking this week off and only playing 1 event prior to going to Atlanta.
And especially some of these younger guys or guys that haven't been playing as long, they see someone like Rory McIlroy do that, and the next year they think, oh, I can do that too. So it doesn't matter so much for Rory McIlroy. Somebody who it does matter a lot for this weekend is Jordan Spieth. Right now he is 48th. Again, top 50 or moving on to next week. And I was reading a lot of interviews from him, and he was talking about, look, next season, I'm really confident in that, but I do want to finish strong. And Michael, he does rank 16th on tour in total strokes gained. How confident or not are you in Jordan Spieth this weekend?
It's an interesting thing. I mean, his statistics look great, and yet, Greg, what we've seen is we've seen a guy that really hasn't been able to get it across the finish line, and we've still had the inconsistencies. There still seems to be, as I've said on this show before, 2026 is the thing that I really like. That's the year I look forward to him having a great season. But if you look at his stats, the one that sticks out to me is Where he has always had success in his career is strokes gained approach. When that number is low, when he's like in the top 5 there, he has a great season, much like everybody else, and particularly on a golf course like this. He's 53rd in that statistical category and 139th in greens in regulation. And if you're missing greens here and on the PGA Tour, it makes it very, very difficult for you to make a lot of birdies. And a golf course like this, where you gotta make pars, but you also got to make birdies to win. It just feels like Jordan is showing some good signs, but they're not really leading to anything.
You mentioned that he's 53rd in strokes gained approach. I find it very interesting that Jordan is inside the top 60 in every strokes gained category, every major strokes gained category, but also outside the top 25 in all of them. So he's above average in every area of his game, but he's not excelling in any one thing. And Jordan Spieth is at his best, like you mentioned, Michael, when he's excelling in strokes gained approach and putting specifically. So he could definitely use an uptick. I do think Jordan's in a good position to move up a couple spots in the points this week and advance to the BMW. I know that would be a really big deal, but I think he's a long way off from any further conversations like making the Ryder Cup team or anything like that.
Gents, we appreciate it. Have a good rest of the day. We'll talk to you soon as we get closer to Thursday in competition. All right, let's try to make you a little bit of money here. Odds to win the St. Jude Championship as we begin the FedEx Cup Playoffs. I know you're going to be stunned. Scottie Scheffler is the favorite. Plus 280. And what a large lead he has on the following guy. Xander Schauffele, Matt Fitzpatrick, Tommy Fleetwood, and JT there sitting at 25-1 odds. So let's welcome in our betting expert, along with golf expert Sia Nejad. Try to, like I said, make us a little bit of money here. Sia, pick to win. Let's start with that. Who have you got?
Amanda, I am not going to challenge Scottie Scheffler. So like I've been doing most of this year, I'm doing the without Scottie Scheffler market. And I also want to say Rory not being here sort of helps the rest of the gang right behind Scottie Scheffler. I'm going to go with Viktor Hovland, but again, in the without Scottie Scheffler market over at FanDuel, you can get it at 25-1. We're looking for ball strikers here. We just heard Michael Breed and Greg Ducharme talk about, hey, we're looking for guys who are great on approach. Viktor Hovland certainly fits that description. I mean, he's a guy last year at this course was, I believe, first ball striking and 4th tee to green. And that tee to green number is really important because we look at Viktor Hovland and we think, oh, okay, the around the green play might be a pretty big issue. While it has been an issue for him here, it's been only a slight issue. So it hasn't really affected his tee to green numbers overall. And I just love his ball striking in general. I love what he can sometimes do with the putter and tee to green. He's just an absolute monster. So when you take out Scottie, because I'm betting without Scottie market, and Rory's not here, I really think Hovland is one of the next up in terms of, he's not on the odds board, but one of the next up in terms of equity, win equity, ability to win a tournament. We've seen him win earlier this year. I think he can do it again.
Okay, so taking Scottie out of the field, we're going to Viktor Hovland to win. Find some good value on that. Overall best bet.
Overall best bet, I'm going to go, you know, I like to go international with you. I don't have a top in region play because I didn't like any of them this week. So I am going international. I'm going with an Englishman from the UK, Tommy Fleetwood. I think Tommy Fleetwood could potentially win this tournament. Again, kind of in the without Scottie Scheffler cheating market here. But Tommy Fleetwood has just been so consistent. I like what he's done here. Last year, he led the field tee to green. Again, I mentioned Hovland was 4th. Fleetwood is the one who led the field tee to green. What was so interesting about last year is that he lost almost 8 strokes putting, which is just astonishing. I mean, that is just an absolutely horrific putting performance. But the year prior, where he was T3 at this event, he gained 5.5 strokes putting. So I'm not really worried about the putter. I love what he can do tee to green, love what he's been doing with the ball striking this entire year. I think he's fit for a top 10, including ties at plus 170.
All right, I was trying to find like a fact about Southport, England, because that's where Tommy Fleetwood's from. And there's nothing. Like these people need to get on it.
Yeah.
He's from Southport, England, a charming seaside town that hugs the coast of the Irish Sea, is as much as I can give you. Apparently, according to our producer Jack, Tommy Fleetwood loves yoga. So sorry to let you down there. Sia.
Yeah, I mean, I could have given you something more international, right? But here we are.
Yeah, it's better when you do South Africa and stuff like that. We'll see as the tournament rolls along and the playoffs roll along. The early wedge, part of the early edge. You can get so much more when it comes to betting the FedEx Cup playoffs. Just make sure to tune in.